guys on the CPLFever, it's your host Jack Murray, and today we are joined by the Managing Consultant, President, CEO, and General Manager of York United, Angus McNab. So welcome back to the show, Angus. We're very pleased to have you on.
No, delighted to be back. Delighted to be chatting to you guys again.
The feeling is mutual.
So York has had a very busy offseason, right? So we'll definitely be getting into some of that. But it must be kind of an exciting time to be able to put together all these different pieces and have control over the shape of the future of the club.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a very exciting time for us, but it's an exciting time for soccer in Canada right now. We're all riding this sort of upward hockey stick, if you look at it in the business world, in terms of that we're sort of riding to 2026 and hopefully beyond. I think Canadian players, while we finished with the Island Games, Forge went on and had a strong showing in Concacaf competition, and Canadians are doing great things around the world with Jonathan David finding his scoring touch, with Alfonso with Bayern there. So it's a positive all round right now, and just again, still very, very privileged and happy to be part of that movement.
Nice.
Yeah, so I want to get into the roster. So York United has just completed the roster, 23 players. We've looked at all of the players, been keeping up with the news, and all of your signings seem like solid signings that will definitely help you in the upcoming season. So I'm excited to see all of those players play in 2021. I want to ask you, could you dive a bit more into how it was to to sign all of these players in such a short time, because you guys have finished your roster the first out of any CPL club?
Yeah, well, we're finished for now, is what I'd say on that front. Is that yes, we sit at 23 players, but we have had some phone calls. We've fielded phone calls from teams in MLS and other things about guys for their rosters for pre-season and things there. So the world of football doesn't stop just because of where we are. So we continue to look to evaluate. We have guys out on loan where we have the opportunity for our U Sports picks, for Chris and Daniel to come into our environment and see how they perform and whether they're going to be contributing factors that we look at. And so I think it's that classic thing, like the business of football, the world of football never stops. I had a phone call with a team in Colombia right now earlier, just before chatting to you guys, about their roster situation and things, and even looking at planning for the 2022 season. So it never really stops, to be honest.
Okay.
One of the interesting things is you mentioned loans. Michael Petrasso's doing well out over across the pond, but his loan goes until I believe July 1st. So that would kind of be in the middle of the planned season, right, for the CPL. So he'd only be available for part of the season. Is that how that would work? Yeah,
it would. There's actually been a very recent sort of last 24 hours change to the sort of the Canadian sort of inbound, outbound transfer window with Canada Soccer. So there is actually, most of the time you structure these loans according to transfer windows and transfer availability and things there. Obviously with Michael now, with that change in things in the window, there may be the opportunity, depending on the exact end date, any quarantine restrictions or anything like that, to get him back in, so for, if not week 1, week 2, week 3 kind of thing. So he's not missing a lot of football. So it's that sort of delicate balance. And sort of we look at all of our players and their individual player development plan. And with Michael, he has had a very, very disappointing year with us, where he was just really frustrated and he wanted to be playing football. There's the opportunity at Barnet. There was also another opportunity for Michael to actually go on loan up into Scotland as well. And Barnet, with it being sort of a full-time environment, the sort of training, everything that he needs to come back in top form, made the right sense for him as a player. So we look at what we have to balance there. Michael's on loan. Nicholas is on loan and getting phenomenal experience sort of in the training environment at Dundee, having again, he hadn't played football in terms of, so this really worked well for us with him, and it's a great partnership we're developing there with John Nelms and Tim Keys at Dundee, and equally now Dom up on loan in Sweden as well at Vassarlands, and that's the right move for him with his ambition. And then Julian Ulbricht will come to us as well when things in Germany settle down, stabilise, however that looks. They're doing things very, very measured and calmly there in their pandemic response. So Julian is on loan at Phoenix Lubeck right now, but he's got a little bit of inactivity just with the suspension of the regional leaguers due to the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned Julian. I'm very excited to see him come and play for you guys. When I saw that you guys had signed him, I was very interested in him. So could you expand a bit more about what you think he's going to bring to the team and why you signed him?
Yeah, Julian was a player that we actually had some interest, and we had a little bit of a look at him way back in sort of June when we were looking at alternatives when Jaco and Adrian Ugariza were not able to come into the country with the pandemic. And we signed, obviously, Alvaro Rivero there at that time and brought him in because he was a player that probably we'd had a little bit of a longer look at and have been interested in Alvaro since way back in sort of January, February of last year, and the timeline worked for us. So Julian, while the Island Games was going on, just continued to do the background work, scouting, everything that needs to be done. And he showed up very, very well. He gives us the ability that he can play a number of different ways, a number of strings to his bow. On his current loan, he's played sort of actually as a more orthodox right midfielder. And he's also obviously played as a pure sort of 9 striker as well. So very good player, very good sort of tactical, technical versatility. Been brought up through German Bundesliga academy systems and things there. So he was just incredibly impressive, and some of the sort of data we're able to get on him and sort of like testing results from sort of 5, 10, 15, 20 meter sprint speeds and things like that really caught our attention, warranted a deeper look. And I think with all of the signings, the key bit was getting on the phone with them and their desire, and like they want to come here, they want to contribute, they want to play and excel in our environment, and that's always going to be a plus with what you look for in someone.
Yeah, do you look a lot into their background and you know how they are off the field? Because obviously you want to create an environment in the team where you know people are working together, they're kind of on the same page, they're coachable. How much can you even evaluate that, or is it a little bit of a guessing game?
You do as much due diligence, and sort of I think that's an important point. Just generally, people sort of label us and what we're doing as the Moneyball, the data-driven team. Data is a part of it, but it's like any decision-making process. Any decision-making process is solidified with information. Now, that can be qualitative or quantitative. So that can just be all of the sources and piecing up sort of what essentially is an evidence file. And what we don't necessarily do is data-driven recruiting, but evidence-driven recruiting. So looking for patterns, looking for history, doing as much due diligence as we can to sort of acquire a player and see that they will be happy in our environment, they will contribute, and they have all of the things that we look for.
Yeah, that's interesting. On the data-driven point, we interviewed Jeff Paulus a little while ago, and he actually just got into the analytics. Like he kind of said he was a little bit behind in terms of the analytic data available to him until he got in touch with Oliver Gage, and Oliver Gage was kind of really pushing that data that he didn't have access to before. So my question is, kind of being the Moneyball team, for lack of a better word, how do you see what Oliver Gage is doing and kind of making this data accessible to the coaches, but also to the fans that want to get more involved in that side of the game?
So on that side of it, I love it. I think we chatted before. My background is with Opta, in terms of that's where I really, really grew up, and my career sort of really progressed in the sports industry. Was working with Opta, working with a great number of teams in Major League Soccer, and that's actually where I know Oliver from CPL League Office. I know him from his time at the Houston Dynamo. When he was there, I was with Opta and all things there. So it's always been something I've been a big advocate of, and it helps us greatly in our understanding, in how we can visualize things, in how we can, again, build up this very layered, nuanced, evidence-based approach is what we're trying to do. So I always felt that when I was put in the position of trust and things by an ownership group, that I would try and treat this like any sort of, quite frankly, financial transaction. When you are acquiring an asset for a business, when you are looking at mergers, acquisitions in a company, you look to grab every piece of information at your disposal to make a decision. And this is what we're trying to do. We're also trying to do it in real time during the game itself, in taking the Opta data and taking everything else to come up with evidence, things we can point to, things we can show the players, things we can show coaches, that really, really reinforce points, and really, really add to the weight of the argument for Jimmy, for Stolly, for Camillo, in what we're seeing, and how do we identify patterns, how do we identify trends quicker, and then ultimately address them through coaching and tactics. So that side of it is big. I think we obviously did go big on this. We had Sam Gregory, who's been phenomenally successful and gone and left us from his role as director of on-field analytics and joined into Miami. I feel a little bit spurned, but when I got a text message telling me that he met David and Victoria Beckham at the weekend, I sort of understood the appeal of that role. And he's also working with a great person in Chris Henderson, who's just joined that organisation from the Sounders too. So it's exciting for us that centre circle data and things is going to power, energise, sort of infuse more Sam Gregory's, get more people into soccer and different access points into soccer to look at data, analytics, sort of coding techniques, all of those kind of things that are really, really important, and actually a pretty innovative way to teach if you can incorporate that into curriculum as well, with math, computer science, those kind of things, and show alternative paths into the business of sport and the business of soccer, and how you can contribute not being an on-field sort of resource and a player.
Yeah, that's interesting. And with you kind of leading the CPL with that, and the center circle data being available to players, like how does that compare to the MLS, or do all the MLS teams, like, are they all on that level where they're doing a lot of that analytic data as well, or do you even know?
Yeah, so a lot of them are, and a lot of them are beyond as well. So MLS, they take in sort of tracking data as well. So the position of all 11 players on yours and the opposition team at every single moment in the game, taking in sort of a data feed that is 60 frames per second, and sort of player movement and everything that sits there. It generates a truly massive file at the end of every game, and the computing power and sort of interrogation that's needed to manage that data properly requires genuine sort of computer science, database management, all of the things that you have in big companies when they're managing big data and multiple data points. So they have that, they marry that up with the on-the-ball data, the equivalent that we get from Opta, or you may get from a StatsBomb or one of these other data providers in the industry. So all of that comes in, and MLS teams are using this in their decision-making as well. The center circle and the fan availability and accessibility piece is pretty unique to MLS. It's pretty unique to CPL rather than being in MLS. It's something that's been talked about a lot of the time, but again, I think it speaks to the innovation, the creativity of this league, is that we're not afraid to try things, and because we're young and quite nimble and growing, we're able to do this and innovate. And it's again, that's one of the exciting parts of being involved.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
fantastic point.
The CPL is definitely very unique, and they're trying a lot of unique things, and it's really exciting for the fans and everyone who's involved in the CPL. And I just had one question about scouting and the data. Is there like what for you when you're scouting players? Is there one specific maybe like statistic that you is there one specific statistic that you look at when you're scouting players, or does that depend more on the position?
So there is no miracle number that tells you good or bad, success or failure when you're acquiring your roster. So there are a number of things that go into it. Yes, it does vary by position. One of the projects before Sam left to join us in this off season, one of the things that was one of the foundations of our recruitment is that we created some sort of manual, some standards across the club in this off season where we're looking at player archetypes. So it's not just a goalkeeper, a right back, a centre back, a left back. Like, we have different variations in the roles and types of player we have within each position set. So we have our club player archetypes document, and that creates sort of like a common language within a club. So when we speak about a player, what kind of player is he? Like, if someone just says, oh, he's a centre midfielder, that's not enough. That doesn't give us enough insight into his initial characteristics and why we would like him and why he would start to fit and sort of fit within our team makeup. So we have our player archetypes, and then within that as well, we have sort of various data points we look at as comparison, as ranking in the league they come from. We then sort of balance that with the strength of league they come from the 21st club and their World Super League. And there are all of these things. We then use maybe another data source from Smarter Scout and those guys there, because there's a broader breadth of leagues and things. And we're able to get some great data on Sebastian Gutierrez from Smarter Scout and have an initial look at things there based on his performances for Patriotas and Linares in Colombia. So it's all about, again, building this picture to just inform decision making and sort of like, but having in some ways the confidence and sort of the real, it's not guts because but it's sort of having the appetite for calculated risk, but accepting that there is calculated risk in this. If like the level that, and I've sort of said this before, I think the level that we are all shopping at in both the domestic and international market, there's no absolute sure things in terms of like people's circumstances and things may change from when they left the club to when they arrive at you, and that could affect performance. But again, you try and mitigate every risk possible by building this information packet, this sort of whole decision matrix really that you come to, where you're like, right, this is what we're going to do.
Very interesting, and I like how you look a lot into the roles as well, not just center mid, but you look into the roles, like if they're a good passer, how good their touch is, or if they have like the best touch, and what you need in that specific position.
And I guess what the coach is asking for too, like.
Yeah, I think what the coach is asking for, but also we operate on a 23-man squad, so you need players who can sometimes play multiple spots. Mm-hmm. You need that sort of tactical flexibility, that adaptability that a squad brings. So people have said to us, you're quite heavy on forwards, but actually one of the most difficult things is when you can't score and you can't buy a goal, you need options there, and you need optionality, you need different ways of playing, you need people who can actually change things up in both the formation, the role they play, what they may do on one side of the ball versus the other. So it's about creating this sort of tactical sort of flexibility, things that sit there. And for us as a club, it's not necessarily about one dialed in formation or footballing philosophy. It's about Jimmy and sort of ultimately him and his leadership philosophy with this group, how he's going to help them grow, how he's going to make them better players, and then actually adapting that and adapting with sort of tactics and game plan as is required throughout the year.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into, the island games. Obviously, you didn't finish where you wanted to finish in the island games. Statistically, looking at the, like breaking down the whole event, what went wrong statistically from your perspective?
It was pretty simple for us in that we had a very, very low expected goal value per shot from open play. So we actually had, across the 2 years of CPL's existence, we had the lowest expected goal value per shot in open play. So the quality of shots we were taking was not sufficient. We scored goals off set piece. That's all well and good. And actually, you know what? If we had held, and it's very, very fine margins, we did not play great by any way, shape or form, but we're very close. I mean, we didn't lose a game until going into our last match day.
Yeah.
Against Cavalry. So and we lost that by a goal. So very, very tight games, draws pretty much moving across the board until the sort of Edmonton Cavalry sort of final stint there. But we gave up some late goals from chances, and I think when we look against the Wanderers, Ryan Telfer has the ability to send that ball 70 yards up the pitch and shouldn't give the free kick opportunity away that Chrisno actually won, I think, off Ryan. So that's one there for us where we shouldn't have put ourselves in that position. I think against Pacific as well, that's a game we should have seen out. An error off a corner late that we shouldn't have had, and those things don't go for you. I actually think we were getting healthy towards the end of it, and it's very short. It's 7 games, so Chris Manila sort of not coming back into it until late, until the final 2 games. Mikey Petrazzo sort of starting, having a setback with his injury, and then sort of not being able to see the game out on the final sort of one as well, with match fitness and things that sat there as well. So yeah, just unfortunate. I think the open play piece and where we sit, we were disrupted by Yako and Adrian not being able to come into the country, and they've both gone on and signed at Yako at a very good level with Gremio in Brazil, and Adrian playing very well and scoring in the Peruvian First Division since they're released by us. So we sort of, that will be a very good indicator that those guys would have come in and done something with us. But that's unfortunately just the cards we were dealt. Ultimately, when we look at it fifth, we look at the performance tables, we look at underlying performance. That's where a lot of models would have had us. When we look at the quality of chances we created and we sort of faced through our defending from our position. So we can have no complaints, but we can't really get too high or too low based on a 7-game season. And right. To be very honest, we didn't. The roster composition and the decisions off the back of that were then just decisions about, okay, well, where do we need to be? What does this club need to be to build out long-term sustainable success? And there was an opportunity within that there was an opportunity to get younger. There was an opportunity to really, really look at where do we need to be. And I think I'm very happy with the position that this roster sits at now, not just for 2021 and what we've got coming up, but I think for us, when we look at the bigger picture now, like the great news on Concacaf and the Champions League qualification in future years as well, through 2022, 2023, where we want to be contending for and winning titles, so we're qualifying for that competition. We should be doing it with guys coming into an average squad age at peak at sort of 25 to 26 that should put us in good stead to compete for that. And actually, hopefully, get to that and compete at a Concacaf level, not just a CPL level.
Yeah, I saw that the Concacaf Champions League is gonna change like the formatting, so that's gonna be exciting for for CPL clubs like York United, and just all the CPL clubs that are contending, because the all the CPL clubs really are really close together. It's like they're not there's not a team that's like miles ahead, miles better than a different team. So it's going to be really interesting to see all the CPL clubs battling for those CONCACAF Champions League spots.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of like our last run out against Forge at the Island Games, we managed to nick a win against them. So it's sort of, it shows that's there. And I think in terms of consistency over 2 years, that Forge team have been incredibly good. Tommy and his cavalry team have been incredibly good. You've seen this year the resurgence of Halifax, and sort of that story of a team going like that variance and that jump in the table is phenomenal. And I think that's a great story for the league. But I just think generally that news in CONCACAF, when you look at it, we're in year 2 now. We'll speak about being in year 5 and the potential that teams from our league within 5 years could be playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta against Atlanta United. They could be playing against Club America. Like, that's fantastic, and that shows the strength of this project. That shows really is just reward for the Baldazara family with their belief in this, with Bob Young and sort of his belief in this as well, and other owners throughout the country. They really, really deserve this for putting their money at risk, because it is a risky endeavour, and it is a very expensive endeavour to run a football club, particularly during a pandemic with little revenue certainty and everything else that goes with it. So it is just reward, and it's another great building block for soccer in Canada.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it shows how far the CPL has come in just like 2 years, and it's going to be amazing to see what the CPL is like in its 5th year.
Yeah, and like genuinely, that's year 5. I can't wait to 2035, like genuinely, because we're going to be on fire in this country in terms of we're a sport now that there's already 190,000 more participants in soccer than there is in hockey in the country. So let's project that out even further, the bump off the back of the 2026 World Cup and everything else.
Wow.
It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be huge, and we're going to be hopefully having the issues and the discussions like, how do we get capacity up? How do we look at all of these things? And that's amazing problems to have when we look at the future and the potential of this in the country. It's just great, and very, very honoured to be a very small part of it, with others who are doing so much more.
Yeah, talking to you is making me even more excited for the coming years. Just talking with you, and I also now I want to ask you a bit more. I want to talk to you and ask you a bit more about your younger players. So I want to ask you first about your draft pick. So the draft was recently conducted, and you guys came out with Chris Campoli and Daniele Rafsimi. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you see in them, and why did you choose those 2 players?
So they just fit with what we're looking to do at the club. Local talents for us, very, very sort of high upside players, high potential. It's time to get them into our environment, test them, and really see what they've got. They're players that, whether it's this year or next for us, would count towards under 21 minutes as well. And that is important for us to sort of continue to contribute and look to build that for sure, because that shows that we're trending in the right way. We're bringing players through, and is sort of the biggest sort of very visible target check mark for us to really be continuing to look at and put sort of development of players, development of talent very much at the core of the club's philosophy. and to really look at and drive the growth of the Canadian player pool, which is what this league again set out to do. So that's one of the things that we looked at in terms of age, and particularly age was important this year because people hadn't had a lot of football in the previous 12 months. So having someone that we have time on our side to come in, work with, contribute to be a part of our environment, that's very much what we need to do and where we need to be.
And you have 4 of the 3 slots filled, which I believe is the most of any of the clubs.
Of the under-21 guys?
Yeah.
I think we might actually have more of that. So,
okay. Well, that's great then. That's even better.
I think I'm just trying to think off the top of my head in terms of I know for a fact. So the average age of the squad is 22 years 7 months right now across the entire sort of 23. That comes down when you add the draft picks in a little bit as well. But I think when you look at our squad and players sort of under 21, there is obviously like young Felix enter there. There's Lowell, there's Ija, there's Max Ferrari, there's Isaiah Johnson, there's Cedric Toussaint. So there is, and I'm trying to make sure that I've not forgotten any of the boys there. There's those guys that are all Canadian under 21s, and then obviously young William Wallace, who isn't a domestic, so won't count towards under 21 minutes, is there at 18 years old as well.
Yeah, your U21, you have a lot of U21 players, and they all look like really solid signings. I'm excited to see Chris Novick and Felix Ensa, both that I was excited when they both signed with you guys. I'm excited to see both of them play together and train together. I think it's going to be a really cool story that both brothers are now playing on the same team with each other. So I also wanted to ask you about William Wallace. So you just mentioned William Wallace, and you mentioned versatility of players earlier. And William Wallace can play as a left winger, a left fullback, and a right winger. I think, that's what I heard. So what did you see in him? Because when I was looking at his highlight reel, he looks like a really good player that has a lot of pace, who's really fast, who can dribble, who can use his body well to keep possession of the ball. And he just looks like a really good player in the attack. So can you tell us more about him and why you signed him?
Yeah, so a lot of the reasons you mentioned there, Jack. To be honest, he's a really exciting player, and to get the deal done, get the transfer done with Fluminense was great. It's a really, again, we're a young club. We're going into season 3, and we're doing not just William was released. He's looking for a new club. He's actually doing a transfer with Mr. Bittencourt and people at Fluminense, one of the biggest clubs, one of the historic powerhouses of Brazilian soccer. It is phenomenal for us. William was a sort of standout at under 17 level in one of the most prominent tournaments in Brazil. So we had a little look at some of the footage there, and when he then went on and signed for Fluminense, we kept a real good look at some of his full matches, not just his highlight reel, but across some full matches for them across the year. And he just caught the eye in terms of there are some players there that you just think, okay, this kid has something that's very interesting. His ability to use not just his speed, but use his body very well in taking players on and sort of getting in behind, cutting in from left, from the sort of wide left into the box. He's very good and very impressive. So we just, when there was the opportunity to make the deal, we just moved on it pretty quickly. And in some ways it was very harsh on someone who came in on the international program as well, on Fugo Sagawa. But I just think that it was that sort of little bit of a delicate balance, really, in that we just felt that the upside in William was something that Fugo's a great player, and I really hoped that someone else within the CPL was going to pick him up, actually, but I'm not sure if that will be the case now. But I just felt that the upside with William was one that is sort of an area where we want to be as a club. If we're going to look to develop players that can move on to other levels in the future, his sort of training in Fluminense, where he's been sort of, and his own skill, his own determination, all the other attributes. And he's a really, really nice, warm kid. Really, really good guy. So we're just very happy to get him, and we think that he can come in and really contribute to the environment, the group. It was great. He came up with the brilliant line that was chatting with him and his agent when he was signed. He said, "It's just like Football Manager." That I'm training one day, and then the next day I'm sort of called in and chatting to my agent, and I'm told, "Okay, William, this is it. It's happening. You're off to Canada." So it was great. I thought it was really sweet, and he's just a really, really nice guy, and someone we're looking forward to getting into the squad and into the environment with us.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him play. He sounds like a great guy, and also a great player. And like you said, he came from Fluminense, and that is one of the biggest clubs in Brazil. I'm pretty sure it supplied the 5th most Brazilian national team players of all time out of all Brazilian sides. So that's really exciting. Who knows? Maybe he'll even play for the Brazilian national team one day too.
I don't know. I mean, he could like it here. He could become a Canadian in 5 years' time. He could love it. So who knows?
Oh yeah, that's also an option. So that's cool. But yeah, I know you might not want to say this. I thought that's fine, just because you might not want to say this like on the record. But are you planning to play him as a fullback or more forward?
I think it's how he comes in and how he competes. I'm not too worried about it being on the record or whatever else. I mean, William and his representatives and everyone, they back him to come here and do a job. They see this as a great opportunity for him to showcase his skills. So the sort of formation, how we set up, whether that's in sort of a 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 3-5-2, 3-4-3, that's going to be on Jimmy once he's got the guys in and he's working with them. And again, I think as we've gone to, there are guys in this squad who can play multiple spots. That gives us the opportunity to really grow and build into something that, hey, we might be able to switch between every single one of those formations we've mentioned, all within the same 90 minutes. If our guys click and they know roles and they know what they're doing, but it's that's just going to be sort of situational, and that's on Jimmy to work out, quite frankly.
Yeah, I picked up a theme on that. Young players and also positional versatility, which helps with the smaller squad. And was that one of the things that was a conscious decision? You kind of looked back at the previous years and were like, well, it might be better to have players that were a little bit more comfortable playing different positions or switching mid-game.
Yeah, I think we had guys that could do that last year. I mean, Kyle did it. Sometimes for us. Kyle Porter played in a number of different spots. Manny did it as well, sort of throughout the midfield with various injuries when Chris, Mikey had knocks, other things there. I think our back four was pretty settled and has been for a couple of years now, since I think Rog missed a little bit of time with injury, but that was a pretty well settled and established sort of back four that sat there. But I think through the rest of the field, and I think it came down to that sort of piece again in chance creation and what we needed to do, where we needed to improve in our sort of quality of opportunities that we were creating. So we had higher shot quality there. So to do that, we need to have a little look at a different way of building up, a different way of moving through the final third of the field. And so that's, I think, what this group gives us. Lots of different ways to do that, and lots of different opportunity, really.
So you mentioned the Yeah, so you mentioned the back line, and
Yeah.
Gasparotto was your Iron Man. He's now moved on, and you got Dominick Zator, who's already been called up to the Canadian national team. You
Yeah.
talked, which is fantastic. He's a great player, and you talked a little bit about developing players and selling them on later. And then, as a reporter, I kind of saw on Twitter Dwayne Rollins. He's for some reason adamant that he'll never play for York United. What do you think about that?
I think Dwayne certainly didn't hear the months of conversations that I had with Dom to recruit him to the club. The loan is something that was probably a kicker on the very top of all of this for Dom in signing for us. So he is very keen to test himself and continue to play at the highest possible level he can. And quite frankly, right now, he was keen to get out on loan and play football. He wants to put himself in a position to compete for a men's national team spot. And he can only do that playing football. So he needs to play games. He needs to be in the line of sight of John Herdman or of Marrow, all of the coaching staff across the national program. So to do that right now, with us not starting in May, he had to get on a plane and go somewhere else. And that opportunity came up with Cengiz, the sporting director at Vasslands. And I mean, I think already it's paying off for Dom. He's enjoying his time out there. He played in a fantastic stadium at the weekend in the Tele2 Arena there, and against a team that finished fourth in Sweden the year previously, and Vasslands beat them 2-0.
Yeah, they got a clean sheet, right?
Yeah, exactly. He played 66 minutes, watched his game, played very well. He's doing a good job, as he usually does, playing on the right side of a back three. He's not just a guy who settles for playing a very, very simple drop-off ball to a defensive midfielder or to an 8 who's going to progress it. He looks to play 2-line passes himself, and he's doing that, slotting straight into there with limited amount of training time with this new group. So they really liked what he's contributing. He's loving it. I think Sweden's a great country for our players to go and get experience in, because so many of Swedish people are just phenomenal language skills and speak English so fluently, so well. So he's loving it in terms of and really enjoying his time out there. And then he will return to us. I think it's June the 22nd is the last game in Sweden before their sort of mid-year break. At which point, Dom, if it's June the 22nd, he'll be on a plane on June the 23rd and headed back to us.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Dominick Zator play for York United. I think he's going to be a great player in that center of defense. But I also had a question. So Luca Gasparotto, your Iron Man, retired, and Dominick Zator is still in Sweden until June. And if the CPL season goes as scheduled, the season will start in May. So are you a bit worried about this center of defense position for the beginning part of the season at all, with Dominick Zator gone and Luca Gasparotto gone, or is that not a worry?
No, it's not a worry, because I'm supremely confident in Ryan Lindsay as well. In terms of we've got Rog Thompson there and Abzi, Chris knows there as well, and so between whether it's as a 3 or a 4, whether it's Chris No playing at centre back, whether it's Ryan sort of playing at centre back, whether it's Rog. We've got Felix Enser there that can play right back as well. Jordan Wilson plays more of a sort of central defensive midfield, but has played in Denmark in the last couple of years at centre back numerous times as well. So it's not something that concerns me particularly, given the quality that we've recruited and brought in. The thing that concerns me is we have to replace Luca, who's just been, like, it's described as an Iron Man, but Luca just been absolutely phenomenal for this club. And it's not just CPL, it's Canadian Championship, and he's played every single professional minute of this club's existence. And we wanted to make sure when he left, and hopefully people saw it. If not, I would encourage them strongly to try and get back into the website and have a look at some of the things we did when Luca retired, because He deserves it. A fantastic servant for this club, fantastic servant to Canada soccer, and great ambassador for Canada abroad when he went and played in Scotland and everywhere else. He's just a good guy, and he remains like a real sort of firm fixture in the York United sort of football family and history of this club. And I think it will be like when we're 15, 20 years down the line, we'll be revisiting like the first 2 years and Luca the Iron Man and what he did at this club.
Yeah, how do you be an Ironman at soccer? I mean, that's tough. Avoiding everything and just, going up for all those balls. It's still just staying healthy.
And I think it's that bit. It's staying healthy. Like Luca played when it hurt. Like there have been players who would be like, "Oh, I could do with a little break here. I could have a rest." Like Luca played when it hurt, and he played through sort of like niggles and just the strains, the stresses. Canada's a big country to travel, and sort of there were times where we had sort of game compression in year one and things like that. But he's just a really, really good bloke and like a big part of our history as a club.
Yeah, and he was just ready to retire, or?
Yeah, I think he's done sort of some things that others haven't in the league. So when you look at Luca's career, he's obviously been and played in Scotland. He's done that. He's played at Ibrox for Rangers. And so he maybe didn't quite have the itch to scratch that others did in that, like, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be. And I think he got to the stage in his life in other things, and I don't want to speak too much for the guy, but like, it was like, right, okay, so I have an opportunity to set myself up and set my family up, not for 1, 2, 3 years of a football contract, but for the next 25 plus of my life in a new career and doing what he is now as a tree surgeon. And so it's a tough decision for anyone to make when they give up playing sort of something they love, something they're great at as well, in his case. But he makes the decision for his family, and you can never begrudge someone like anything when they've given you so much and they're making a decision with their family and others at the front of their mind.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So how difficult is it to put this roster together with the salary cap, and then further complicated by, COVID-19, because, we talked about the risk of the league. And then also it's, we're facing this kind of global pandemic, and it's kind of, there's still a lot of uncertainty.
There is a lot of uncertainty, but the one thing when we were recruiting this year, I think the efforts and the lengths the league went to play a season last year, when not just within Canada, other sports not managing to get it done or anything else like that, but within the global sort of football environment, other leagues around the world suspended, folded, paused operations. Like there was like not expansion, the absolute opposite. There was contraction. Those clubs went out of business. So from that side of it, the viewpoint to the international market was very positive. This is a very serious professional group of owners that are looking to play football and build something wherever possible. So that side of it, on the recruitment piece, people, one, love the country in terms of they love the opportunities it can bring for them, and ultimately potentially bring for their families in time as well, if they settle, if they do well, if they come across and move their families on at a later date to Canada. So that side of it in recruitment wasn't hard because of the commitment of our owners. In terms of balancing a salary cap, the hardest bit of that for us was making some decisions to say, thanks very much for what you've done for the club, but we need to look at a different direction. And I think for us and for me, it was, yes, we don't necessarily get too high, too low on performance and sort of like very snap judgment off the back of the Island Games, but we do have to look at some variance. And we certainly couldn't justify a pay increase for everyone based on the performances we had last year. We did not perform. We did not meet the mark of us. And the benchmark for the playoffs was 50%. We were not in the top 50% of teams in this league. So we had to look and seek some change. So we become what we want to, and we live out the mission, the vision of our club. We live our values, and we look at, right, when this is tough, are we still doing the right things? And I have to do that when I compile a roster as well. We had some hard decisions to make, and we had some hard discussions with a couple of players that have contributed a lot for this club. And we wish them all the best in their future, and we progress, and we sort of really try to take control and drive our own destiny and build our future as a club.
Yeah, the one player I was surprised to see leave was Joe DiChiara, just because he was so dominant in the Island games. He drew that red card in that game against Halifax, and he's like,
there's a lot of you guys say he drew that red card. I think he just got smashed in the face. So I'm not sure how much drawing he needed.
I don't know. I mean, when I watch him play, I mean, I know that type of player, and they're both of those guys knew what they were doing. I think, but I love his just aggressiveness, and he's such a difficult player. Like when I saw the lineup come out, like that was one player I was like, oh, watch out for this guy.
Yeah, Joe was in form. He was our best player throughout the Island games. No two ways about it. I think for us, some of the things that we look at sort of where we're investing our dollars on the field and where we think we're going to get a return for that. There's obviously a value discussion, and you place a value on these things. I think Joe's real strength for us was in something where you look at, and in Sportlogic's data set, they look at relief receptions. Who is that player who takes the ball and completes the next pass when he's under high pressure and a lot of trouble? And Joe did that very well. There's no two ways about it. He is very, very good at that. And across 2 seasons, he's done that for our club. And so he will bring that to Cavalry now where he's gone. But again, he's a married guy who he's got to make the right decisions for his family. And I don't begrudge it to him at all. He was able to secure a contract there that met his needs, met his family's needs. And that was something that at the time we weren't sort of really prepared to sort of put on the table. So it is a free market from that standpoint. Joe was a free agent. It is hard because he is a really, really good guy. He's a really good bloke. And he'll be a great sort of voice within that changing room and things there. But in terms of it's unfortunately the reality of sort of the football business is that sometimes the player, the club will have different ideas on things, and you move your separate ways. I think if you can do it in the right way, as Joe certainly did with us in how he conducted himself through it all and everything there, you shake hands and you welcome him back when they come to our place and play games. And you say, how you getting on? And you do it in the right spirit, friendly manner. And he's going to try and absolutely get one over us on him that day. And we're going to try beat him. And that's part of it. And that's how it goes. But as a person, good bloke. And we wish him and his family all the very best.
Yeah. Well, you certainly got some exciting players on this roster right now. It's looking really, really sharp.
Yeah, and just one player I want to ask one more question about was Mateo Hernandez. So when I saw that you had signed him, I thought, wow, this is going to be a great player. I'm really excited to see how he plays for York United. So could you expand a bit more about what you saw in him?
Yeah, Mateo's, he is a great player. He's played a number of times for Colón in the Argentinian Superliga, the top division across there. He's someone that he just really, really ticked a lot of boxes as well. You chat to him, his agent, like Juan Cafa and the guys at 22, they represent a number of big name players throughout South America. I think they've got Alexis Sanchez on the roster and others there like that. But the sort of passion that these guys had for their boy, and again was able to do a little bit of secondary sort of third level of checking on the guy as well through some other networks of contacts. Through the route that we looked at Brian Lopez from with Fran Taylor and Porrig Smith at the Colorado Rapids. They had done some pretty extensive scouting on Cologne as a result of signing Brian Galvan last year in MLS. So was able to pick up the phone and said, hey, who had watched the games, and chatted to a few of their scouts, chatted to a few of their boys who are actually down in Argentina as well. And that helps build up more of a picture on it. But Mateo, again, another really, really exciting guy. Actually, him and Lissandro know each other through various things in like the local sort of soccer community in Argentina. And so once Lissandro signed, like him and Mateo have been like texting and sort of reconnecting and catching up. And so, I mean, those guys have played great levels in South American football. Mateo at Cologne, Lissandro coming through Boca, and then obviously going out on loan, signing for Newell's Old Boys, and then going out on loan to Cucuta in Colombia as well, and scoring there in the top division in Colombia, scoring in Argentina at a great level. So we're very, very excited about those guys. But Gutierrez, like the South American boys coming in, I think have huge upside for us as a club. They've got to settle, and there's a risk in that, we know. But again, the work we've done about them as people and what they are, like they're guys who are coming here, and quite frankly, they want to be box office. They want to make names here, and then that's great. That's what we all want.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it will be exciting to see him play too. I'm really excited. I think the two players I'm most excited to see on your roster are your two new players that are both international, are William Wallace and Mateo Hernandez.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a couple of people have pointed to Mateo, and it shows the different entry points into soccer now. So a lot of people, and our guys in our content team flagged it to us that people got excited about Mateo because obviously his performances for Cologne and being on that roster meant that he had a FIFA ranking from the video game and things there. So it just shows, like, when we look at our marketing, when we look at things, the different entry points, I suppose really the importance of eCPL and that competition and sort of that strand within our programming of the league as well. That there are many different ways that we can bring the fan base and engage them with the sport and with the league. So that was certainly an interesting bit when our guys pinged it across to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks thanks so much, Angus, for giving up this time. Do you have any last questions, Jack, or did you want to just jump into rapid fire?
I had just one more quick question for you, and then we'll jump into the rapid fire. So this is just a quick question. So who was one player that you thought would be really difficult to sign, or you thought that it would be really hard to sign, but you ended up signing?
I think it's been a couple of them this year. Dom wasn't easy to get done. Chris Snow wasn't easy to get him away from you boys up north, but we managed to do it. They've all been hard in terms of in their own ways. Like there's it's not so much has it been hard, but some of them have been a process, but ultimately we land in the right spot because ultimately we put it back on the player in some ways. It's that, yes, there's this piece where you've got to pitch to a player, this is what you can do. But ultimately, we're not going to overreach, and you want to be here or you don't. And you want to come into this environment, contribute. We're presenting you with opportunity. It's up to you if you'd like to take that. One, in joining us, and two, once you've joined us, coming in and really, really driving not just sort of like your own performance, but driving the group, driving the training environment, driving absolutely everything to give yourself the best chance of success.
That was a great answer, and I'm definitely excited to see all of your players play. So if you don't have any last questions, I guess we'll move into quick rapid fire.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I remember that you were our first interview that we had on CPLFever, and actually by that time we hadn't installed the rapid fire. It was like, I think it was like 2 or 3 interviews after you that we actually started the rapid fire. So this is gonna be your first time for the rapid fire. I thought that was kind of fun. So let's get into it. Do you play FIFA?
I don't. I've dabbled with it, but I think it's time. It's hours in the day, and unfortunately I don't. So I've not played it for a long while. I think I will probably, when the wait list runs down, I will probably be one of these people investing in a PS5 and getting back into it. But I've not played for a while, to be honest.
Okay. If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Right now, it'd probably be my dad. Miss him a bit. He's been stuck up there in Scotland, so probably him right now. And hopefully after a morning of golf or something like that.
Okay, that sounds good. And hopefully that will happen pretty soon. And hopefully, like, restrictions will stop, and COVID-19 will be done pretty soon. Do you have a nickname? Is
Not
it
really.
Gus?
Yeah, just Gus, really, in terms of.
Okay. Okay. Do you have a favorite coach?
Favorite coach. Within football, as an Arsenal fan growing up, and it probably is Mr. Wenger. In terms of the just phenomenal what he did for the club, and how he built sustained success there. Everything there within all sport. I'm fascinated by coaching and coaching process. I'll absolutely eat up any of the Amazon All or Nothings or HBO Hard Knocks series, and I love seeing coach interaction and how these guys go about their business.
Yeah, we loved watching the Tottenham All or Nothing and the Manchester City All or Nothing.
Who would you rather play for? Would you rather play for Pep or Jose?
Pep.
Yeah.
I play for Pep just because I love his style and I love the tiki-taka style of play that he does, and I think he'd be really interesting. Not to say that Jose wouldn't be interesting. I just think that my personal preference would be Pep.
I think Jose would be interesting. I'd rather play for Pep because I don't think I'd fancy playing for Spurs.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting that though. It changed my perspective of Jose, but at the same time, like, I was surprised that he let them film some of what he did too, because it was a little bit colorful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what he signed up for when he went into that club. He obviously knew the project was live.
Yeah.
Tell you what, though,
he gets off on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd certainly settle for Tottenham's training facilities, though. The restaurant there looks as good as any I've ever eaten, so it looks quite good.
Yeah.
I know. I bet you'd like them to do one in Arsenal pretty soon, though, right?
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great. And they've got fantastic facilities, stadium, everything that's going on there. I think it'd be an interesting project. There is certainly a movement, some change there at the club. And it would be pretty fun if that was documented.
Yeah, so just a quick question about Arsenal. Do you like what Mikel Arteta has done with the club, or would you prefer a different coach come in?
No, I think Mikel Arteta is the right guy in terms of with what he's trying to do and then get sort of things together. It's just not easy in terms of what the club does and how they move on. It's a big club, and there are a lot of other big clubs within the Premier League also making moves. So it's not like you get to tackle things within sport and there's sort of static and there's control. Everyone else is around you trying to improve as well. So it's, can you evolve and can you improve at a faster rate than everyone else?
That sounds kind of like your role in the CPL.
It is, yeah. It's the same for all of us. Yeah. It's like ultimately if you can make sure that you're evolving and improving at a quicker rate than everyone else, you will get to the top eventually. It's just how long do you get as the time to get there?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I really hope Wolves get to the top. Goes even is getting going to the top is even faster because they just came in to the English Premier League and they've been doing really well.
Yeah, for sure.
And what is one superpower you would like to have?
Right now, I'd be all right with stopping this pandemic. I don't know if that's a superpower or.
I think that
would be what, healing.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Bad one.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. No, that'd be all right. Or yeah, no, that'd go quite well right now.
Yeah, healing would be a good superpower. Do you cook?
Badly, very badly. I'm not bad on the grill. I'm sort of like, I don't mind a bit of barbecue in terms of like launching things on and cooking that way. But I think my wife describes my sort of culinary skills as sort of very, very entry level. And I think she would also say that I have a toddler's palate, and I'm quite a fan of like a yellow dinner where everything is yellow and out of frozen packets. So whether it's fries, chicken tenders, all of that.
Okay. Wow.
I've got quite a simple palate on me. So it's whenever it's me cooking, it's like potatoes, a grilled meat of some kind, and maybe like a carrot or something like that. It's nothing too glamorous.
Okay.
So.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. So would that be your favorite thing to cook? Something on the grill with potatoes and carrots?
I don't think it'd be. I love to do like a proper barbecue and like a decent bit of steak, or like a bit of asparagus and things like that. But the chances that I get everything right are very slim. But I normally grill a bit of steak. Okay, that's about it.
Okay. Where is one place in the world you'd like to visit?
I probably from having so many conversations with agents and looking at recruitment in Colombia. I'd love to go to. I think I'd love to go to probably Medellin or something like that. I think it'd be pretty cool, pretty special to go there and take in a game.
Yeah, probably would be really special, like you said, to take in the game, and hopefully you'll be able to do that as soon. And what's your favorite movie or documentary? Is it the All or Nothings?
I do like the All or Nothings. My favourite movie is Jerry Maguire. It's probably the thing that got me obsessed with sports. Sort of like from far too sort of in sort of my like early teenage years and things there. So like just Jerry Maguire would be favourite film in terms of probably the film that evokes most memories and things like that you just think about growing up. In terms of favourite documentary, there's an American football film called Undefeated, which is great, which is about a high school team. And I think it might have won an Oscar actually in terms of the coach and everything he does and puts into it. That's pretty good. That's pretty special. And I love ESPN's 30 for 30s. It's pretty raw. It's pretty emotional. But the ESPN 30 for 30 on Hillsborough is one of the best bits of filmmaking I've ever seen.
Okay, that's cool.
And I have to say as well, because people have started to ask about films a couple of times now. Owen O'Callaghan from our content team, our director of content, Owen made Celtic Soul with Jay Baruchel, and about their journey and their shared love of Celtic, and that's how obviously Jay did the rebrand video for us and sort of voiced everything on that. So I have to say Celtic Soul as well for Owen and Jay, and it is worth taking in for any football fan.
Yeah, we should watch that one. I don't think we've seen the Celtic one, or I know I haven't seen the Celtic one. And do you have a pet?
I don't know. We used to have a Dalmatian, but unfortunately he's no longer here. So we lost him a couple of years ago. My son, my 4-year-old Cam, is repeatedly telling me that we're off to get a dog. We're going to get a new dog. So I'm not sure how much longer I get to hold out. It's I've gone from walking a dog at 6 a.m. to Cam waking up at 6 a.m. and jumping on me. So it's from one small little creature to another in terms of, I think you go through these spells in your life, as your dad will probably know.
Yeah, well, I'm really sorry about your dog, but but Cam seems pretty fun.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. He's a really sweet little boy, and I think 3-4 years old, it's that brilliant stage where they say the most wildly inappropriate things are very, very funny. So it's great.
Yeah, my little brother Henry is now 5 now, but like 2 or 3 years ago, he still talks a bit with the baby accent, but before it's so cute to hear the baby accent, and yeah, and Henry does say the wildest things, and sometimes he still does. And what's your favorite board game?
Favorite board game? We went through a period actually, sort of during lockdown, where I don't think you can ever truly complete Netflix, but it felt like we had. So myself and my wife, we played a bit of Scrabble. And that was pretty good, pretty mundane and boring, but didn't mind a little bit of Scrabble. It's good. It switches you off from the TV for a night, and a couple of games of that was all right.
Okay. What are 3 words to define you?
No idea. 3 words to define me.
People say this is the hardest rapid fire question, so don't worry about it.
It probably is. 3 words to define me. 3 words that I'd like to be defined by. Sort of 3 that define, probably. If it's 3 general words that I'd like to be defined by, probably be sort of honest, happy, family. I'd go for that. That'd work for me.
Okay. I like those, and I think I see those. Yeah, I see those in you. Yeah. Between the 2 times that we've talked. And this is my last rapid fire question. What are your goals for the next 5 to 10 years?
It's quite 5-10 years out. A little bit more difficult to look at given the context of the last sort of 12 months. But again, I think probably healthy, happy, fulfilled in what I'm doing, and just sort of keeping to be involved in projects that I'm passionate about, that I care about, and I see will be important, much as this last 12 months with York has been.
Yeah, well, I hope you achieve all of those, and I think you definitely can. And I want to say thank you so much again, Angus, for coming onto the show for a second time. And yeah, good luck to you and York United in your next season.
No, thanks very much. I really appreciate it, and love chatting to you guys, and love what you guys have done for the league, and sort of the attention that rightfully you've got for it as well, because the work, the preparation you do for all this is brilliant.
Thanks, Angus. And yeah, we love talking soccer with you too. It's great to talk soccer with such great minds like yours.
That's very generous, but it's good to catch up with you boys.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Angus.
Thanks, Angus.
No worries.
Okay. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers.